Hello, and thank you for joining me for another flight today. We are here at Wycombe Air Park, also known as Bucker Airfield, as it used to be an RAF base in the Second World War, RAF Bucker. But you can see we are today in a much smaller aircraft than we're used to. Today I've decided to go for a jaunt in this Cessna 172. Just a little small 180 horsepower fuel-injected single-engine aircraft. And the plan today would be to take off from Wycombe Air Park here, fly north, I guess following the A41, north of High Wycombe towards Princess Risborough, heading on towards Stoke Mandeville and Aylesbury, and then continuing up towards Bicester. When we get to Bicester, we're going to take a left-hand turn there, just down the side of Kidlington and Oxford, until we get to the M40, and then we'll follow the M40 back down here, and obviously land back here at Wycombe Air Park. A giant circle should take us flight time about 40 minutes or so. So I expect this video to be probably an hour or so, with the startup and whatnot, but I guess we'll see. First thing you can notice here really is the instruments. We have a lot less than what we're used to in our commercial airliners. So hopefully the startup should be a bit quicker. One thing I will note is that although you can see a control tower just to my left here, for small airfields like this, it's not uncommon for the control tower to only be manned during business hours. That is the case here, so there is actually no one in the control tower at the moment. In this case, the area we're in is known as uncontrolled airspace. In terms of the radios, what that means for us is we don't obviously have to communicate with ATC, as it's not there, but if we do see any aircraft on the airfield or in the air, we should be communicating to them what we're doing. As long as everyone knows what everyone else is doing, then obviously that will increase safety and prevent the likes of runway incursions, for example. Now, having a look around, there are no aircraft around today, so I don't need to worry about the radios. It makes it a little bit easier for us today. Now, the flight we're going to be doing will be flying VFR, that is Visual Flight Rules. That basically means that we're going to be flying by line of sight and navigating through visual pickup points as opposed to using our instruments. If we were using instruments, that's known as IFR, or Instrument Flight Rules. But no, VFR for today. Now, it does look pretty cloudy, but having checked the Met data, the base of these clouds is about 6,000 feet. So that's higher than we're going to be flying. I'm aiming probably to be between 3,000 and 5,000 feet today. So although it does look pretty bad, we are going to be below cloud level, which means that we would have good line of sight for VFR. So without further ado, let's jump into getting the aircraft set up. So obviously I've done my exterior walk around. I'm happy with all of that. So let's get on to getting us started. So step one, I'm going to get the electrics turned on, and we'll get our avionics on at the moment. Let's get the fuel pumps turned on, and we'll get our beacon on because we have power now. Because it is a fuel-injected engine, I'm going to just put my throttle on slightly and my mixture on, just to get a bit of fuel running through the engine at the moment. Not for long, just a couple of seconds, that ought to do. And then when we're about ready, I'm going to open the door. And then with my hand on the key, lean outside and shout, "Clear prop!" Oh. Didn't leave it on long enough. Let's get the door closed again. Right, obviously make sure the brakes are on, which they are. Now what you'll notice is before we started the engine, these instruments in front of me had a little red flag in the corner. That meant they were uncalibrated. Now that the engine has started, we've got power running through, these little red flags have disappeared, which means that these instruments are now reliable. So just making sure our lights are okay, we're going to be taxiing this taxi, so we'll turn the taxi lights on. It's not dark, but it is quite overcast. So just having a quick look around, everything looks okay. What I'm checking here is instruments like these, to make sure these needles are all in the green, basically. My temperatures and pressures are all okay. So let's get our taxi lights on, and we can start a taxi towards the runway. So release the brake slowly. Throttle's already on. to taxi around. So keep an eye that there is no people or aircraft in the way. I keep tapping my foot brake there, which is why we're jolting to a stop. Right, I'm just cautious the tail of the helicopter is sticking out ever so slightly, so I'm going to give it a bit of a wide berth. What I don't want is my my wings to clip the tail rotor there. Come on. For some reason I have no rudder, which is a bit odd. Right, let's try and turn with the foot brakes, because that is very annoying. I don't know what's going on here, but my there we go, that's what I wanted. I'm getting that a lot closer than I intended there, that's not ideal. But if I can just make a pretty sharp turn here, my wing should miss that tail rotor quite nicely. Perfect. Right, let's get back on track. So, not quite sure what happened there. My rudder pedals just weren't responding for a second. I was going full left rudder there and my aircraft was not moving. Or wasn't turning, I should say. But it looks like we're all back on track now. So again, as we're taxiing, just keeping an eye out around the aircraft. Just making sure that we are safe. So it only looks like there's only one, but Wycombe Air Park actually has two runways. The concrete runway that we're going to be on in a second. It also has a grass strip, I think for gliders. Small aircraft can also use that. This Cessna can probably handle a grass strip relatively well. But yeah, my belief is that it's primarily for a gliding club here. So here we go, head on to runway 24, which is exactly what we want. Again, just doing a quick check left to right to make sure all my dials are happily in the green, which they are. Okay, so heading round to runway 29. Oh, 24, sorry. I don't know where I got 29 from. 24 there. Right, so flaps are set. Just do a quick check here. Tax lights are off. We are ready to go. So, slowly increase power. Just keep an eye on speed here. And there we are. The aircraft wants to take itself off. Right, so what I'm going to do is quickly just trim this into a nice little climb here. And as we're heading up, I want to be making a left-hand turn. What I'm going to be looking for here is the M40 that runs behind the air park will lead onto a pretty large junction called Handy Cross. It's a giant roundabout, so hopefully it's going to be relatively hard to miss. So visibility is quite good, despite the clouds. Straight up slightly. I think I want to head a bit more left. Bearings here. one of the beauties of flying a smaller aircraft like the Cessna is the ability to just really sit back and look around and admire the scenery that's around you. The area we're flying in today is the Chiltern Hills. It's known as an area of outstanding natural beauty, which basically gives it a few protections from development and whatnot, and allows us to maintain this kind of rolling green landscape. I feel like could be the M40's looping around to the left here, so I want to be, I'll say, heading a bit more left, following this route. How's the development below us? Getting a little bit more height as well. I'm going to be aiming for about 4,000-ish for this flight. So yeah, I need to go a little bit higher. So, this down here could very well be, I believe it is that roundabout that I mentioned. I believe so. The road in front of us, I think, is the A413, perhaps. Which leads to Hanby Cross, which is here. So I'm going to start to make a left turn around here and kind of start to head through High Wycombe. Or I guess West Wycombe, as this would be. Just to my left, just down there, will be Creswick's Business Park, for anyone who knows the area. Right, so there's Hanby Cross there. What I want to be doing is heading basically to that area just over there, on the other side of the town, which is basically where this main road hooks up to the northern route, that A41 I think it is. I'm going to be basically following from this journey. See M40 below me, see a few trucks down there. So just off the left-hand side of my propeller, do a bit of kind of landmarks and sightseeing here. That is, it's kind of a slight hill there. That is where the Hellfire Caves are, a tourist attraction in the area. Never actually been myself. Just see it signposted all the time. Right, what I want to do here is veer slightly right. The issue I have is I'm starting to go over the route that I'm taking. The issue with flying over the road is that you can't see it. So that road, again, just left of my propeller, that road that's snaking out over to the countryside, that's the one we're going to be following here. So we're kind of leaving High Wycombe now, heading down here. The first town we'll get to, I believe, will be Saunderton. And what you might see is there should be a railway that kind of goes parallel with this road for some. So if I lose the road, I can at least try and find the railway lines. That railway line would be the London to Aylesbury or London to Oxford route. It splits off in half, I believe. It's approaching 3,000 feet here. This is going to be the lower limit of where I want to be in terms of height. So my fuel pump's on, that's relatively unrequired. Let's get that off. And I'll just lower my mix slightly as well. So the first thing you'll notice is the aircraft starts to nose down, so again, I'm just going to quickly trim that. Try and keep us in a bit of a neutral attitude. beauty of these smaller planes, particularly with the trim, is that you can kind of get to a point where it's almost flying itself. You kind of end up not battling the control column. So you can see I'm completely hands off, and we're pretty much flying straight and level, which is exactly where I want to be. Nose down ever so slightly, so I'm just going to adjust that trim a bit. So again, keep an eye on this road down to my left hand side here. This is all my following. And as you can see, the Chilterns, for the most part, is a lot of farmland. So yeah, we have these rolling green hills, which is fascinating. Notice my wings are kind of shaking slightly, so making minor adjustments. So this is where the relaxing part of the flight comes in. We're just here for the ride now, enjoying the countryside as it goes past. So in terms of the VFR route, I mentioned before, we're basically flying by visual pickup points. Just see my spots off there. So the visual pickup point that I'm going to be looking for now, so we've passed Saunderton, that was just slightly that way. The next visual pickup point will be a large town coming up, that'll be Princess Risborough. What I'm going to do at that point is not follow the road, but continue to fly pretty much due east. Or northeast I think it's going to be, where the road will kind of enter the town. It does a bit of a dog leg, heads down Stoke Mandeville, then cuts across again. I'm going to cut out that kind of elbow, if you will, and in theory, if my air navigation is up to scratch, then as soon as we hit Princess Risborough, if I continue a straight and level flight, I will intercept the kind of easternmost part of Aylesbury. So it saves a bit of navigation and tracking on my part. What I've done, as I mentioned earlier, I have basically flown above where I'm trying to keep an eye on. Right, so you'll see here, this is Princess Risborough, I believe. So what I'm going to do is basically continue to fly, pretty much due east. So just where my propeller's crossing now, I believe is where they head down towards the... I'm going to leave that for a short while. Continue in this direction here, and then I'll say just off my propeller after a couple of minutes we should start to see Aylesbury up here. We have dropped a bit, so I would like to maintain a bit more height. Let's get my nose up ever so slightly here. I'll trim that for nose up. In there as we pass over the top of Princess Risborough. It is surprising how dull those clouds are making it look. Despite them being considerably quite high. I believe the floor of that cloud level is about 6,000 feet. Just try and get a bit more altitude on my part. Just keep my eye out just on the right hand side. So hopefully pick out the makings of Aylesbury. So if I'm going to do a bit of a hard bank right, and then I'm going to loop back round left, and ideally we'll pass over the top of it instead of going parallel to it. Down there, which will be the Oxford Road. Which means, yeah, just over to my left here is the old Aylesbury Golf Course, I think. Just off my propeller here will be Stoke Mandeville. That big white thing ahead of us could very well be the hospital. So I'm going to start a left-hand turn here. Very gentle turn to start lining up with the road that's going to be going out of Aylesbury. I believe that's the A41 Vista Road. There's a very strong left I've got all these numbers mixed up. But yes, that would be the road. So that kind of area just to the left of my propeller there, that's kind of the more industrial area of Aylesbury. Kind of there's various retail parks and whatnot there. There's one road you can maybe make it out there that's heading, what would that be? Pretty much directly due east actually. That's what we're going to be following. That road will then head into Waterston. So this long road here, this is the Oxford Road I was talking about. And you can see kind of where it does that kind of sharp right-hand turn just off my window there. That's heading into Hartwell and then to Stoke in that direction. Hartwell's got a pretty nice stately home down there, Hartwell House. It's a hotel and spa. We'll be passing a couple of stately homes on this route. The Chilterns are pretty well known for them. I believe the Rothschilds had a fair number. in this sort of area. So there we go. There's Stoke Mandeville and Aylesbury just off my right there. Now, once again, you're probably going to notice me do this a few times. Despite saying how much I shouldn't do it, I keep flying over my visual pickup points. They need to be on my left-hand side, ideally, not underneath the aircraft, because I can't see them. Right. There we go. So there's the old golf course down there that I mentioned. It used to be a very nice dog walking place until HS2 came and blocked it all off. Thank you, HS2. In fact, just off my right wing there, just kind of in line with my wheel, you can see that's where the Hartwell House is. Just in the next, we're now kind of flying over the various retail parks and Fairford Leeds. Maybe a bit further right than this actually. Just slightly just here. Here's the Bicester Road that we're going to be following now. So the railway lines, we want to be actually a little bit... There we go. So rail lines are coming over there, we are heading down this way. That, just past my wheel there, that is Aylesbury Vale Parkway rail station. This route that's kind of snaking out now. We're heading over to Waddesdon, and the second of our nice big manor houses, stately homes. Waddesdon Manor will be passing over our way. I'll point that out as we go. I'm just looking at now, just off the window here. If you can see, just behind the town there's a slight hill with trees all around. That is actually where the manor is, on top of the hill there. So I'll try and pass somewhat near it. Hopefully you'll be able to look out the building, or at least the lovely gardens. Another very good dog walking place there. Currently checking on the instruments, just making sure everything is in the green, as we should expect. That's us now kind of starting to pass over the village of Waddesdon. Just there. Start to veer to the left, we go with Prospect. There, as you can see, kind of just coming up to my wing strut, that's where that manor house is that I mentioned, Waddesdon. We head right now to rejoin that road that I'm trying to follow. What you'll see coming up on my left-hand side is what used to be an airfield, obviously now a business park. You can clearly make out the old runways there. That is Westcott. This, particularly when flying VFR, this is a very good visual point to know. And the reason I say that is if, for some reason, obviously we're flying here, that kind of visual pickup point to visual pickup point. If it gets to a point where you somehow lose that track, you need to kind of be able to hopefully work out how to get back to your route. Now, if you're flying IFR, on the computer here we'll have lots of kind of markers, and we'll be playing dot to dot, flying from marker to marker to marker to marker. Very easy, the computers are all for us. VFR, we're kind of doing the same, but with visual points. Now, something like this Westcott business park here, that is a very identifiable shape, and something that can be seen from quite far away. So if I was to find that actually, on my journeys, I've somehow come off course, I've expected to get to a certain visual point, and it's not there. What I can do is then try and look out for something I can recognise. So that would be an ideal example. I'd see if I can work out that shape from somewhere and then fly towards it. Once we confirm, yes, that is what I think it is Westcott, I'll then immediately know where on the route that is and how to get back to my route. So yeah, being able to find identifiable areas that you'll be able to see from quite far away is crucial for VFR. So what we have now is a very long, very boring road. This Bicester road that leads up to, just kind of on my propeller there, to Bicester. There's another airfield there, literally just off my wing, and I actually don't know which one that is. Thinking which ones we're close to. Oxford Airport is very, very close. I think that's probably the wrong bearing for Oxford Airfield. I would expect that to be over there somewhere. So I might have to check it out when we land. See which airfield that actually was. Again, always good to notice where other airfields are in case anything happens and for some reason we have to make an emergency landing. Knowing where the local airfields are is paramount. In fact, it looks like there could be an airfield in front of me there. That is more likely to be Oxford Airport. Just off the edge of my propeller. So as we come into Bicester, I'm going to start to make a left-hand turn. And that should then take us towards the M40, which is going to be our point of heading back. So the next of the landmark points, as we come into Bicester, what you might see on my left-hand side, we're not going to be too far away from it, so we'll be quite low, will be Bicester Village, the retail outlet. Very distinguishable on the ground. The architecture is very unique. Less so from the air. Railway bridge there is kind of the next visual pickup point I've got. So I know that railway bridge is just before we get into the entrance to Bicester, if you will. There's a bit of an industrial area before we get to the main retail park. So that just lets me know that yes, we're on course and how long I expect to be on this trajectory before I need to turn. The answer is not long at all. So just off the edge of my propeller there, there's a stretch that will be a bit more obvious as we get closer, but that is Bicester Village there. We're going to be making a left-hand turn. there'll be a roundabout when we get to that point, and we're kind of following that down to the left. So this area just here is Bicester Village. So hopefully it'll be a bit more obvious as we get closer. On the other side of that road is a Tesco. So what we'll be able to see with Bicester Village straight away will be the large car park out front. The perpendicular roads there. A bit of a nosedive. Always something to be aware of on the turn. Right. So yeah, just passing by my wheel now. Between the wind strut and the wheel, that's Bicester Village there. Okay, so we're now following this main road here. What you'll see is that roundabout just off my propeller blade. That is the M40 junction. So at that point I'm going to start to make a left-hand turn and we can follow the M40 back. Now, unfortunately that's going to be the longest part of our journey, following the M40. It gets to a point when you think you may have even missed the airfield after. It's running for quite a while. But no, perseverance should stick with us. Obviously, we know how long it took us to get up here. And theory says it should take about the same to get back. So if we head that road ahead of me there is the A34. That heads into Kidlington and then onto Oxford. We're returning just before there. So that ahead of me actually is probably Oxford, going through my propeller blades there. So as I continue this left-hand turn, jumping up to the M40. Clouds may be clearing. So it's nice. There's the M40 down below us. This leg home now, which is a matter of following it. Possibly the least exciting part of the trip, I'm afraid. But yeah, we should be passing a couple of things here. So coming down the M40, one of the main kind of visual points that we'll see there will be a giant service station, Beaconsfield. That will let me know we're probably about halfway between where we need to be. So again, there's Bicester just off my left-hand side there. So a point to note when flying VFR is that flying into clouds is an absolute no-no. Pretty obvious reasons really. VFR, you need to see where you're going, and if you fly into a cloud, your visibility goes to 0. So yes, you need to avoid flying to clouds at all costs when flying VFR. My nose dropping slightly there, let's retrim. You want to be getting to a point where the aircraft is practically flying itself. These sorts of stretches are actually the best part for that, where you're flying pretty much in a straight line or you're following something relatively trivial. You don't want to be interacting too much with the controls. So if you can get the aircraft to pretty much fly itself as much as possible, that's the ideal. Maintaining that M40 on my left wing there. So this is the airfield that we saw whilst we were flying up from kind of the other side of the landscape there. If you recall, we saw this probably about when we were passing Wycombe, so that kind of gives me an idea of where we're at on the route. We're probably just north of, at least on the way up, the equivalent of just north of Waddesdon. That part of the leg was probably on the upwards journey, the kind of 3/4 mark. So we can expect the reverse now, so we're probably a quarter of the way down from our route now. So the M40 is just veering left there, so I need to make sure I'm going to match that. Suspecting here is that junction ahead of me, just to my left propellers, is Beaconsfield there with the Beaconsfield services. Just kind of spreading out from the right hand side there. I can confirm that as we get a bit closer. It wasn't a bit more sunny today, so the overcast isn't ideal, but at least it didn't stop us from flying our VFR route today. It just means the scenery is less vibrant. I'm just going to pass this ever so slightly before I start my left-hand turn, just so I can get an eye as we pass over. What it is, it's just off that junction. So I believe it might be the services, but I might be wrong. We will find out shortly. Does indeed look like a services to me. So again, that gives me a good idea of where we're at. Probably about 4,000 feet. that's this Beaconsfield services right there.
Following the M40 down. So as I said before, we think we're probably around halfway on our return. Probably this side of halfway, not quite there yet. But it does at least give us a rough idea of where we sit. And again, the plane is pretty much flying itself, which is ideal. It gives me a chance to just have a look around and enjoy the scenery. Whilst we're heading down the M40, a couple of points really. We need to be ensuring that we, I guess, can pick up the airfield as we pass. Failing that, we want to make sure that we can pick up Handy Cross. That was our first visual point, if you recall. That very large roundabout junction. I believe it is the first one that we're going to encounter on this road. So if we see a large roundabout junction, it's probably that. If that is the case, we just need to do a bit of a 180. We would have only just overshot the airfield. And then I guess the third point there would be if we start to see this turning into a very built-up area. So this M40 will lead into the edge of Slough. What we're going to start to see in that case, as I say, is it's going to start to get very built up. And we will probably start to see Heathrow appearing on our horizon. Again, the M40 will pretty much will go past Heathrow. So yeah, if we start to see kind of built-up areas, a big airfield with multiple runways coming up, we've overshot a lot. And we see a double back, and make sure we don't go into Heathrow's operational area. Now, if I'm honest, we probably will realise we've gone too far before we get to that point. But yeah, it's just worth knowing that if we do start to see that, that's kind of what that would indicate. But no, the first point really will be to try and pick up the airfield as we pass. We'll fly over the airfield and then double back and land. But yeah, should for some reason we miss that, we will probably see Handy Cross Junction, and that will be our alert that we have indeed overshot. Obviously, I want to make sure I am not doing what I did the last time I flew this route and be looking on the wrong side of the motorway for the airfield. That's exactly what happened, and then I only realised as I was literally on top of the airfield. Again, it wasn't the end of the world, as I just had to do a bit of a 180, retrace my steps ever so slightly, get into a position to land. Still not ideal if you can help it. If you can try and avoid it.
just off the left of my propellers there is High Wycombe, which means that we'll be coming up on the air park shortly. What I'm going to do, because I'm relatively certain that is the case, I'm going to start to bank right here. That's going to mean coming into angling myself for landing is going to be a bit easier. Yeah, so I can just confirm that is High Wycombe because we have a little monument here just above my left wheel. And I do know that monument is on the entrance into West Wycombe. So that's a bit of a confirmation for myself that yes, I am where I think I am, which means that starting to prepare for landing is not a bad idea. So, to do so, I start to decrease my throttle. I'm going to trim, just try and keep my nose up. And what you'll see there, I immediately start to lose altitude, which is ideal for me. So as we're heading in this direction, I'm just going to keep my nose up, there we go. Just keep an eye out for the runway so I can just work out my correct angle for entry. So my nose is wanting to dip here as I'm leading off altitude. So there we can see just on my coming to the strut there is the concrete runway of Wycombe Air Park, which means I'm pretty much on the right angle for the moment. A little high for my liking, but that can soon be remedied. What I'm going to be doing is flying until I'm pretty much perpendicular, then make a left-hand turn, which should set me up for a nice straight approach onto the runway. Probably start a very gentle turn. Just keeping that runway just off my left wing. So I'm coming to 3,500 feet. Just straighten up a bit now, get across a bit more. And nose down slightly so I can help this speed loss out. The danger with doing this, obviously, the more I nose down, the faster I'm going to go, and I need to make sure I don't overspeed. That will put me in a whole world of pain. So starting that left-hand bank again, bringing us round. Slight worry, I'm a bit high for this, and I'm going to come in quite hot. But we'll see. If that is the case, it's not the end of the world. I'll overshoot the runway. We can make a left-hand turn and come in for a second approach. So you can see there now we're nicely lined up with the runway. Straighten up a bit. Continue down as we try and lose a bit more speed. No, altitude, I should say. So at this point, that I'd obviously be
if there was an air traffic controller, I'd be talking to them, obviously let me know on the finals. It's surprising how much slower this is to the commercial airlines we're used to flying. Just feel like we're going to fall out the sky shortly. Just for a little bit over to the right there, so let's adjust that. Right, and we're at 2,000 feet. Very small adjustments here. Still want to be a bit more left, actually. Here, because as my nose is trying to pull up, because of the slow speed we're at, I'm starting to get the beginnings of a stall warning. So that's why I'm just very incrementally increasing my throttle, just to make sure we're avoiding a stall. That my feet are off the brakes. That can be quite devastating if you accidentally hit the toe brakes whilst landing. Very quick way to pop your tyres. Or if they're rubber, to gouge out a nice chunk of the rubber tyre. Crosswind here, that's why I've got one of my wings ever so slightly developed. You can see it's pushing me off a little. Okay. Nose is down. Let's just put the brakes on ever so slightly. Slow. Brakes, a bit more brakes, there we go. The issue with these toe brakes is that it will force you to one side or the other if you don't get them exactly together. Right, there we go. That's us down. So let's continue our taxi back round to where we started and do our shutdown. again, it's going to make sure that we miss these. Actually, what I'm going to do to miss these helicopters, I'm going to come around the back. In fact, what I will do, instead of going back where we started, I'm going to go stick it over there. Breaking every rule in the book here, cutting across the parking spaces, but no one ever saw that. So let's head down behind this aircraft here. There we go. It's like a Piper, perhaps. Let's get over. So 23, let's go into parking spot 23. Looks like it's going to suit us. Come on. That'll do. Brakes on. Get that turned off. They can come off. Avionics and power. Okay, so thank you for joining me for today's flight. I hope you enjoyed it. Couple of issues on startup. I think I know mostly what that was. Unfortunately, my pedals that I have here were too close to where my chair is, which meant that as I was trying to then use the pedals to steer, I was inadvertently applying the foot brake, which is what was causing a whole raft of issues there, meaning that I pretty much lost steering entirely, which was less than ideal. But no, we resolved that, managed to take off, had a pretty decent route, and yeah, it all turned out pretty well. So, yeah, thanks again for joining, and hopefully I will see you on the next flight. Take care.